Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sam. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my fall TBR. I have 12 books that I have pulled from my shelves. Well, one is still on the way to me, so it's not technically from my shelf, but it will be, that I want to read this fall. Some of them are giving me like very much fall vibes. Others are just books that I really want to read. I'm also not including any upcoming releases because I do still plan to do monthly TBRs for the rest of the year. So these are just books that I own that I want to read. So you will probably be seeing these a few times in other TBR videos, but I'm going to really want to try to read every single one of these. I mean, that is the purpose of a TBR, but I'm rambling and I'm hot. So we're just gonna get started. I have like dark gothic books. I've got some fantasy. I've got a horror book, dark academia, romance. So a little bit of everything here that I want to read. But the first book that I have, and this is actually going to be a buddy read with my friend McKay. We've been talking about reading this book for so long, and I think we're probably going to start next week. Hopefully. Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This is a big book, but I have heard nothing but amazing things about this book. It is a dark, atmospheric student-teacher romance. It's gothic. Is this like more paranormal or is it fantasy? I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but I'm excited to find out. I have the audiobook ready to go. I'm just waiting for McKay to give us the green light to let me know when she's ready. And then this book will most definitely be read in the fall. Okay, and then the next book that I want to read, this one I'm definitely very late to the game on because this was making its round last year on TikTok and Instagram. That is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. Now, I know a lot of people say that this one is like Gilmore Girls. Is it Gilmore Girls inspired? I'm not sure. I never watched Gilmore Girls. I know I've never seen a single episode of that show. So if there's references in here, they're gonna go right over my head. But the cover of this book, I mean, it's fall and pumpkin spice. I'm not a pumpkin spice girly, but I know that that's fall. This one it looks like a cozy mystery, which I think it is sort of a romantic suspense, but it is spicy and it is a small town romance. I'm gonna read it. I also bought, this one, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I have this one. This one might be read in the fall too. I don't know. I didn't want to go too crazy with my TBR, but I do have this one that I want to read. So next we're going to get into the fantasy romances that I want to read. I have, 4 of them here. We're going to start with, I think, probably the most like quintessential fall book because this is a gothic fantasy romance, which I think this one is more fantasy than romance. There is a romance in here, but I've heard, well, for the most part, I've heard good things. I have seen some sort of mixed reviews on this, but I still want to read it and find out for myself if I like this. Our main character, Elizeth, has, I think, like a monster that lives inside her head. And I think the magic in here deals with like cards, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but this is just giving me fall vibes. Kind of spooky, atmospheric, definitely needs to be read in the fall vibes. So that's the first fantasy that I have. And then I have City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. I've had this on my TBR for so long. And you know what? Now's the time. Now is the time that I need to read this book. I think someone compared it to Crescent City, which is why I ended up purchasing it anyway. I think there's angels in here, angels and demons. When a devil is hunting you, there is nowhere you can hide. This is a House of Devils novel. I think there are 3 books total in this. And I need to read this. I need to see what it's about. I hear really, really good things about the hero in this book. I've seen some TikTok reviews. I've also seen some art that has been made for this series. And I just need to read it. That's all there is to it. And the next fantasy romance that I have is Blood and Steel by Helen Schurer. I think I'm saying her last name right. This one, I think, is there already like 4 or 5 books out in this series already. I hear, though, that they get better with each book. So in this world, the women are not allowed to like wield swords. They are not allowed to basically learn to fight, to defend themselves. But our heroine, she doesn't like that. She wants to. And so she goes and she trains. And I think this is a romance with her like trainer, whoever is teaching her how to, you know, fight. So yeah, it says women are forbidden to wield blades. So she has trained in secret her entire life. I'm interested in that. I need to see what the hype is with this series. So starting with book 1, and hopefully I will like it enough to continue. And lastly, for fantasy romances, this is book 2 in a series. And this is probably, other than Nocticadia, this is one that like I will be reading very soon. And this is book 2 in the Legacy series. This is Storm of Secrets and Sorrow by Melissa K. Rorick. I read book 1, Reign of Shadows and Endings. I loved it. Loved it. And the way that it ended, I need book 2. Honestly, I'm surprised that I have not already started reading this. So in this world, there are legacies and fae, and the fae in this world are lesser. So they each, I think it's each year, there is like this selection where the legacy will choose a fae to be sort of like bound to, bonded with, so to speak. And basically there are different things that this bond does, but for the most part, it's supposed to enhance the legacy's skills. And so we're following Tessa, who is a fae, and she gets bound to this legacy that she does not want to be bound to. And there are a lot of things that happen because of that. It was just so good, and I'm so excited to see where Tessa goes and her growth and this series. I need to know. And book 3 I think is coming out soon-ish, I think. But I'm excited about this series. Very excited about it. So the next 2 books that I have on my fall TBR are both historical fiction books. You all know I've been loving historical fiction, and these are 2 that are at the very top of my TBR. First, we have What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon. This one, I really am not sure like what time of the year this takes place, but I feel like historical fiction can be read in the fall. Like, I don't know what it is about historical fiction. It's just, it gives you that sort of, I'm not going to say cozy because these books are not cozy, but there's just something about them that I'm wanting to read more of them as I'm getting into the fall seasons. So in this book, our heroine actually makes a promise to her grandfather, who has recently passed, and he was from Ireland, and he used to tell her stories all about growing up in Ireland and just how much he loved it. And so she promises him that she will go to Ireland, and when she goes, she ends up time traveling back to 1921, when I believe Ireland is trying to be separated from England. So it's a very kind of tension-filled time to be there, and obviously she's going back in time. She is time traveling, and she finds love while she's there. The back of the book says, "In love, time is not a barrier." So I love time traveling books, and I love historical fiction, and I love romance. So I think this one is gonna blow me away. And with all the reviews that I've seen of this, I have very high expectations for this one. And then the next historical fiction that I have is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Even this cover looks like a book that needs to be read in fall. So I don't know too much about this book. I do know that it is taking place during the Dust Bowl in Texas, and the Great Depression, I know, has kind of a lot to do with this book, and I haven't read anything like that yet, so I'm very excited to read this one. I've also seen people just bawling their eyes out after reading this book, and you all know I love that. So another Kristen Hanna that's probably going to rip my heart out, and I'm going to be here for it. We are down to the last 4 books. This next book that I have is definitely a little bit out of my comfort zone. I have never read a cozy mystery, and this one was all over last fall. This is In the Company of Witches by Arlie Wallace. I mean, look at this cover. Is that not fall? Is that not spooky season? Okay, so this one says, when a guest dies in the B&B, she helps her aunts run. A young witch must rely on some good old-fashioned investigating to clear her aunt's name in this magical and charming new cozy mystery. So is this going to be kind of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but add in a little bit of mystery? I don't know. We'll see. I'll figure it out. It sounds really good, and it's super cute. I mean, there's a little black cat on the cover. What more could you want in a book? Next up, Nikki, if you're watching this, now's the time. We got to read this. We've been saying for like a year now that we're going to read this. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I have heard really good things about this book, but I'm a little bit scared to read it. Sometimes I have problems with dark academia and feeling like, am I smart enough to understand this book? Am I going to get what's going on in this book? So this is a mystery where one of the characters, he is released from prison for a murder, and I think he's innocent. And so we're kind of following maybe present timeline and then going back to when he was in school, in college. And I know this has a very heavy like Shakespeare element to it as well. I'm not really sure what it's about, but I definitely want to find out, and I want to be on the hype train, and I want to love this book. So I'm putting it on my TBR. It will be read. It will be read. Make me read this, okay? Nikki, we're reading it. Okay. The next book that I have on my fall TBR is another one that I have been seeing all over the place and hearing nothing but good reviews. This is The Unmaking of June by Adrienne Young. This one I think also has a little bit of time traveling to it. I know that our heroine in here, her family, the women in her family have this like curse, and she's trying to break this generational curse. And so I believe she is going back in time to do that. And I think there's a little bit of romance in here. I do think this has maybe some historical elements to it as well. Just a little bit of everything kind of in one book. And again, I've heard nothing but good things. So very, very excited to read this one. And the last book that I have on my fall TBR is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I don't really see this book like ever. I don't even really remember why I bought it, but this is one that has intrigued me for a long time. This one is set in, think kind of like small village, like Puritan vibes. And our main character in here, she is sort of the outcast, and I think she becomes a witch. Like she starts to kind of develop these very weird things start happening to her, and very just witchy sort of vibes. That's really all I know. I think, is this a horror novel, or is this just like a mystery thriller? Not entirely sure, but again, this one is definitely one that has those spooky vibes that needs to be read in fall. So those are all of the books that I have on my fall TBR. Let me know some books that you want to read this fall. Have you read any of these? Do you plan on reading any of these books? Let me know kind of your thoughts and opinions down below, but don't spoil anything. Yeah, let's see. If you have made it to this point in the video and you'd like to let me know, leave me a ghost emoji in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.